Woman was sure her son passed away just after birth recognizes his birthmark on Facebook 3 years later. One final scream was let out by Millie Fargo, and the doctor sobbed, "Good work. You have a handsome newborn boy." Millie smiled when he held up pink and purple squirming and screaming tiny thing. It was the most beautiful baby she'd ever seen. Soon she was holding her infant in her arms, admiring his magnificence while counting all of his tiny fingers and toes. Then she scowled. "What is that? Is he injured? Is he doing okay?" Her infant's arm had a sizable, bright red mark on it. The doctor smiled. He exclaimed, "He's fine. Just a birthmark, really. Many newborns have them. It's entirely normal." Her final memory was of a nurse removing her infant and the doctor screaming something in a panic. When Millie awoke, she was in a hospital room. Although there was no baby or crib, there was another woman in the bed next to hers. She shouted out, "Where's my baby? Doctor? Where's my baby?" Within minutes, medical professionals flocked to Millie and fussed over her, but nobody would say where Millie's child was. A senior physician then entered the room and sat by Millie's bed. "Millie," he softly whispered, "I need you to have a lot of bravery. For the past 2 months, you've been in a coma, but now that you're awake, we believe you'll fully recover. Unfortunately, your baby didn't survive. But I saw him," Mill cried. "I carried him. He was all right." The physician sadly responded, "I'm so sorry, Mill. He passed away unexpectedly 2 weeks after you went into a coma. He was unconscious when a nurse discovered him. We did all we could." Millie's heart was broken. She cried, "No. You are lying. Not possible." But of course it was, and Millie had to deal with her horrible loss and her anguish, just like so many other grieving mothers. "My husband," she whispered. "Where is Stephen?" The doctor appeared uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Millie, Mr. Fargo left a letter for you." He stood up and gave Millie a sealed envelope before leaving. Millie's trembling fingers tore the envelope open. The letter simply said, "Mill. Both our marriage and our infant are perished. If we are sincere with one another, we will acknowledge that the marriage ended before our kid was born. For his sake, I was willing to try again, but there is no sense now. You and I are no longer married, and I've given you my house and my portion of the money. It ought to be sufficient to prepare you for life." Although Millie groaned, Stephen's abandonment paled in comparison to the loss of her child. He was correct. There was no need to continue in their failing marriage at this point. In fact, Millie had been worried Stephen was having an affair for months prior to the birth of their child. Now that he had left, Millie had to start over as well. She had to look for a new one. Family was what Millie most desired because she had been orphaned when she was a small child and had grown up in foster care. Millie reasoned that there were so many kids in need that maybe, just maybe, she could devote all of her time and love to assisting them. She was a savvy investor and had plenty of cash. 3 years after Millie joined a nonprofit that helped poor kids with medical bills, a particular file came across her desk. It was a request from a grandmother asking the group to assist in covering the costs of her 3-year-old grandson's cancer treatment. Millie accessed a Facebook account that the woman had added as a contact. There was a picture of the young boy, who was adorable and had wide, toffee-colored eyes and a sly grin. With his feet in the water, the child was relaxing by a pool when Millie spotted something odd. The boy's arm bore the exact identical birthmark as her own child's. "That is not possible. It can't be," screamed Millie. In a state of anxiety, she picked up her phone, called the grandmother's cell phone, and made plans to meet the woman. Dorothy Levi was a slim, endearing woman in her late 50s with suffering-related scars around her mouth. She began by telling Millie a remarkable tale. She said, "Daniel is not my biological grandson. My daughter Laura wed a widower who had a young son, and after they passed away," Dorothy exhaled, "I couldn't allow young Daniel to enter the foster care system. All I had was him. Millie questioned. Your daughter and her husband passed away? Their car was found in the ocean, she explained. Just 6 months after Daniel was diagnosed. That was 2 years ago. I've spent all my savings on his treatments. I thought Stephen had money but... Millie asked, Stephen? Stephen was the name of your son-in-law? Yes, Dorothy replied innocently. His name was Stephen Fargo. What did your daughter do, exactly? Millie inquired. Dorothy stated, she worked at Mercy Hospital as a nurse. I was quite proud of her. Millie was stunned. She became aware that, while she was unconscious, Laura and Stephen had planned to abduct her baby and replace him with a lifeless one. Now she had to break this woman's heart. Millie gently revealed that Daniel was her kid and that Stephen was her ex-husband. Dorothy agreed to a DNA test and the results were shattering. Dorothy now knew that her daughter had committed a terrible crime, all for the love of a man. As soon as possible, Millie paid for all of Daniel's medical care and reported Laura Levi and Stephen Fargo to the authorities. With the DNA test as proof, Millie was able to gain full custody of Daniel and welcomed Dorothy to live with her. She said, "You're the only grandmother Daniel will ever have. We want to be your family." Dorothy agreed, and once the two women were informed by the doctors that Daniel was now cured, the three settled into a happy life. However, there was one more surprise. Dorothy got a call from her ostensibly deceased daughter a year after Daniel's final treatment. Laura and Stephen were under arrest. As the whole story came to light, it was discovered that Laura and Stephen had started drinking around the time Daniel was ill, and Stephen's finances quickly ran out. Due to their large debts to important parties, the couple decided to fake their own demise and leave the ailing child behind. Laura asked her mother to use her house as security for their bail now that they were in jail. Laura begged, "Mom, I'm your only daughter. Help me." After listening to Laura, Dorothy sighed. "I have no idea who you are. The real mother of Daniel is my one and only daughter, who is standing right here at my side."